Welcome. Hello. Thanks for taking the time to come to my session. I greatly appreciate it. I hope that everybody here kind of sees how jazzed I am about this stuff. Yeah, exactly. I want to make sure that you know, though, I'm very passionate about this topic. I've turned off closed captioning, but if anyone wants closed captioning on, just give me like a head nod or hand signal. I want to make sure that this is accessible to all. And just a reminder that the slides will all be available because we've had some new people join us. Thank you for coming. All the slides, including everything that I say that's in the speaker notes on the slides, will be available for you to download at the end of the presentation so you have everything. And then these sessions are also streamed online starting tomorrow, so you can show this to your entire team, or any of the sessions that are streamed, you can share them with your teams all the way up until January, I believe. Don't quote me on that because I don't know exactly, but it's for a while. And I was telling Ivan before he came in, great thing to do in a team meeting. Don't have to plan any content, right? It's tough to keep people engaged. Plus, let's keep the value. So you can see my QR code here. I'm going to have the same thing at the end. If you want to have the slides in front of you right now, you can do it on the app. You can use this QR code. It should be the first link at the top. And this is how I do QA, to make sure that all my links are working by putting it at the beginning. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the keynote, because this is going to be how to do this stuff in IT. The idea, the principle that's been added to ITIL 4 is called co-creation of value. Who's heard of co-creation of value? All right, we got 30%. Okay, all right. Maybe you want to read a little more. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. But if you are paying attention to this event and you're in this session specifically, then highly recommend you check out some of the co-creating content out there. It's another great way to expand your horizons on how to apply this to IT. I have some other books at the end as well that are recommended reading, the stuff that I read and geek out about. So if you're a reader or looking for more material, there'll be plenty of that as well. And it'll help you put this into practice. So in many other frameworks and thinking, involving users in the process of designing our services is not something that's new. It's commonplace. Product management. I mean, you saw it with the bike company, right? Printing the TV on the outside of the bicycle box. You know, it's not something new. We're just new to it in IT. So what's great is that we've got those frameworks to actually lean upon. We can steal stuff from other industries and apply them to IT. Have you ever built something from scratch? Something no one has ever built before, like no recipe, no instructions? It's really tough. Like, you're the first person to build something, you may never know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So how can a person do this? How can a person build something, say, for financial services if they have no experience in financial services? You know, I talked to someone earlier, they work at a concrete company. How can you serve the needs of people laying concrete if you've never laid concrete yourself? It's kind of an interesting conundrum, right? So, more importantly, how can a whole team or a whole company or a whole department also agree on how the concrete pourers should be served, right? Do you ever think about that? Am I off base or no? Okay, good. Just making sure. Making sure. I can't see who's paying attention, who's not. So, how can we agree on how stuff should be built? Hi, I'm Matt Barron. I build service management stuff. In 2021, 2 years ago, I was assigned to an HR portal project. And this client was building an employee portal that would be used by over 28,000 employees. And it was a $14 billion retail company, one of the largest retailers in the US. And this is basically going to be a case study on them and what we did for this HR portal project, along with some activities to help you understand what we did and how we came to the conclusions that we did. Come on in, Manly. Welcome. There's chairs in the front, too. Okay, so when we were building this HR portal, the reason that they hired us was because they got complaints. Anybody get complaints about their portal? Like gold, like manna. Hang on to that because you want those complaints. You might hear complaints like, each brand has its own look and feel. Each portal has its own look and feel. It's very disjointed. I used the portal, but I had to call anyway. I had to train my employees how to use the portal. And the number to call wasn't on the portal. Do these sound like common complaints? We don't want to put the phone number on the portal because we don't want people calling. Isn't that a problem? That's a big problem. And of course they're going to complain about that because it's what they needed. So those were the kind of complaints that we were hearing about this portal. This was the current state of their HR portal. I've blurred out their brands, of course, because I got to be nice. But these are real employees. Oop. So they clearly care about their employees, right? They put them on the front page of their HR portal. And it's not so bad. This isn't a terrible portal, actually. It's got search. Count how many times I trip over this. And it's got like buttons to get what you want. You know, your portal might actually look like this kind of, at least a little bit. But how many times have you gone to HR to explore resources? How important is that to you?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? Exactly. We're not mining for gold. We don't need the nutrients in the soil. We're not exploring resources. And how many ways do you need to know that those are links? I think just the color and the fact that there's a list of words indicates already that it's a set of links. So there's lots of room for improvement, lots of opportunities. And there's simply not enough ways to navigate. If you look at this, where's the menu bar? You got your profile stuff on the right, but where's the stuff we're used to seeing up at the top left, right? How many of you have heard of the F principle? Everyone reads like an F. Top to bottom, left to right, unless you're in an Arabian country or a global country. That's not always the case. So there weren't enough ways to navigate. There weren't enough ways to connect with HR. So HR went to IT to build a new portal. The problem was they had built that one.
Oh, what?
Right? And so they knew that they were already failing, right? And so they wanted to hire us, which is great. It's so much fun. To build an HR portal means that you're basically exposing the employees to all the things that they already have access to. How can I help you make more money? How can I help you not waste so much money on healthcare? Right? That's what you're trying to do in HR. Enable them to use those services, like mental health services, you know, pet insurance, the stuff you don't think about, but you need to find sometimes. I'm biased because I'm getting a puppy later this week. Woo. So we were super pumped because it's really fun to be able to maximize people's benefits and build something that looked sexy. Super fun. I love it. It was my favorite job. But this is where people get stuck. Yeah, tabula rasa. Who said it coming in? Yes, blank slate syndrome. It is a big deal. People either don't know what needs to be built, or they've never built it, so they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know where to get started. So people take a lot of different routes. Sometimes they'll buy something pre-built. They'll build a template. They'll copy another company. And those aren't always bad, but the problem was that this team already did that, and it didn't work. So they had to get it done right, and they had to get it done quickly because they didn't want to waste any more time. So blank slate paralysis is real when people lack both the experience and the information needed to make the right decisions. I've never poured concrete. How can I help you? Maybe I just need to go pour some concrete. So, like any good practitioner, we went to the frameworks. This is the design life cycle. There's lots of different versions of this. This is just mine because it's what I'm used to using. And you can kind of see that they were stuck around here and here. They didn't really know what they needed to know, and they didn't know how to get value out of that, how to extract the information, the guidance from our customers. So this is really generalized, but it's super helpful to have just a concept of how you go about iterating and building things. So we'll go through this story, and then we'll come back to this cycle and talk through more phases. So we tried to convince our client to do user research so that we could understand more, right? If you look here, research, that starts here. And so we were trying to convince them to do that. And it's so sad. Just like in IT, they didn't want to talk to the users. They didn't want to talk to people. Does that sound familiar? A lot of nodding, a lot of nodding. It's tough to do. And there's lots of reasons. I I used to think that people were just lazy or they had pre-built assumptions. I never really understood why people didn't want to talk to the users. And then I realized over time, after doing lots of projects like this, that people are afraid it's going to waste time. They're going to think it's a waste of time. They imagine executives being interviewed and thinking, oh, that's going to cost us $1,000 an hour to do that, right? It sounds wasteful. Or they're afraid that it's going to waste money or look insincere. Like you don't know what their life is like. You work at a concrete company. How come you don't know what a concrete worker experiences? Well, I've never poured concrete. Or maybe they think it'll make them look bad, right? Like I'm disconnected. I really just don't understand. It'll cause delays, right? That's kind of a bad one too. So some people also think that the users are stupid. You've heard it. You've heard it in closed rooms probably, and many of these are valid fears, not the stupid one, but the rest of them are valid fears because it does take time, it does take money. You are going to talk to executives, and that's realistic. So user research is the discipline of learning about users' needs and their thought processes by studying how they perform tasks and observing how they interact with your products and services. Watch that concrete pourer use the HR portal. You will learn a lot from that interaction. Or you can use data-driven strategies too, by building a prototype HR portal and then watching them use it. Where do they get stuck? How long does it take them to find the work from home policy? So there's lots of other tips that I'll have in here along those lines. And you want to make sure that you meet your objectives through that user research. Because executed properly, it can really extract some major value. The thing about user research is that you're not trying to ask the direct question. If you ask someone if they like hot coffee, they will say yes. But what about cold coffee? You didn't ask about that. So you heard it when you were in here. I asked them really open-ended questions. Tell me about a time that you were delighted at this conference. Tell me about a time that you experienced something negative at this conference. Kind of an interesting aspect, right? You're not saying, did you like the elevator button that closed the doors? Did you like the soft feeling of the toilet paper because you're not in Vegas? You know? So you have to ask those open questions. What actually delighted you? What stood out in your mind? Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, if not, let me prove it to you. So here's what we pitched to our clients. We're gonna do the user research for free. You don't have to pay us to do it. We want 30 people, we'll select 5, we'll conduct interviews with each of them, and these are some of the results. People want a portal that's easy to use. Does this look like the result of good user research? It's not. So this is fake. I made this up. Edith didn't actually say this. But that's what people expect to hear during user research. Here's what Edith really said. My team doesn't have computers, so we're not going to be able to use the portal. Mind-blowing, right? If you don't think about it, you're not going to understand. If you don't ask the question, you'll never know. Edith's team doesn't have computers. They're not given machines. So user research will teach you about the constraints of your users. People like nice-looking applications. More bad research. Ask bad questions, get bad answers. So you can't ask, do you like good-looking applications? Of course, people like good-looking applications. So research is an art form. It's about walking around the question to get the answer. How do you get that answer without directly asking them? So research is an art form. If you are focused and you want to actually build this in your company, highly recommend you either take research training or hire a good researcher. It's a great way to get started with your voice of the customer programs and your other user outreach programs, because it's hard to learn. Here's what we really learned. Agent pay is cut for doing anything other than taking calls on their computer. So their customer service center was completely sourced. They all had thin clients, and they were docked pay if they would go to any other site than the ticketing system and do anything else but take calls, because they were contractors. Part-time employees. They didn't want them doing anything else except for doing what they're paid to do, which is inhumane at best, but we do that to our people sometimes, unfortunately. So there's the mental health reference back. They should get to HR and get the mental health help they need. So here's another one. People would like an easy way to get in touch with their HR representative. This is another fake response, but wait till you see the real response from Terry. I'm not going to ask my team to put in self-service tickets with HR because that's what I do. I take care of their HR problems and make them happy. That's what I love about being a people manager. Doesn't that just give you goosebumps? That dude loves his job and he loves his people and he's not going to put them through an HR portal. He's not going to make them wait on the phone. He's going to take care of it for them. He doesn't have to train his employees how to interact with HR. He's going to do it for them. Pretty cool, right? So HR would have never gotten this insight by asking Terry these questions. He would never say that to HR, right? Because that's not his job. He's doing that on his own because he knows it's important. So we, as a third party, built trust with Terry, protected his identity. Obviously not. His name is right there. But we protected it during the process, or the project, I guarantee it, somewhat. So these interviews were enough, though, to convince our client, right? They understood through these simple insights from 4 people. Obviously, we need to talk to the users more. Obviously, we need to co-create value together. So we took these people and more people and developed a cross-functional team of change champions to help us through the project. You've probably all had this in your organizations. Who's heard of change champions? It's a very common principle. And that is where co-creation of value starts. Having those people to leverage. And it's not just about UAT. Don't ask them at the end of the project what to do. Ask them at the beginning of the project what to do. They're going to be involved in your project through every state so that they can influence your decisions. Let me just make sure I covered everything I said. This was perfect because it didn't take long for us to hit our first roadblock. So after going through the feedback, we knew we were much better prepared to meet expectations. So on this internal employee portal, there's basically 2 ways that people interact with portals, and you probably know this. There's the searchers, the people who want to Google stuff and then show me the list of stuff in a good order. And then there's people who want to pick around, the gold miners. They're looking for resources. So those are the kind of 2 basic interactions that you get on a portal. And what you're doing during the process of this project is you want to make sure that you can kind of visualize how that's going to work. So this concept's called a wireframe. It doesn't distract you with details, right? You've had this on your projects. People get into the weeds right away. Oh, well, we should put this here and that there. No, think about the layout. How are people going to consume this? You see the navigation stuff at the top that you already expect to see. So you've probably seen me around this conference a little bit. One of the other things that I've said in another session is copy their other systems. Look at the other systems that concrete pourer uses and make it look like those systems, because he's already used to using those systems. Don't make it look exactly like those systems necessarily. Improve upon those things, but look at the other patterns that they have to follow and follow those kind of same principles. So these wireframes, you end up building a ton of them, so it's a pain in the neck. We probably had 10 wireframes just for the landing page, maybe even more just for the front page, and then you have them for your other sub pages too. After I click on search, which is missing a button, I'm already seeing, what should that next page look like? How do you want those results to be displayed to the end user? So once those rough areas are mapped out and people agree to these general layouts, we start to add fidelity. We start to add more details to these systems. And that's kind of what this looks like. You start filling in, like, hey, we got to write this. Don't forget to write this copy. Up there, we've got a welcome message, which is this not centered? Oh, ooh. I'm not OCD. But what we were really stuck on was the knowledge categories. What do we actually want these categories to be? And we could fight about it all we wanted, but why not leverage the change champions, right? So this detail is super important because this is where you can watch people flounder in a UX or UI study. You'll see people say, you'll give them a task like, hey, go find the work from home policy, and they'll click on one of these and they'll be like, oh, that's not it, back. Then another one, oh, that's not it, back. They didn't search. You'd think that would teach them to search, but it doesn't. They have a preference. And what should we call these things? What should we call this? Payroll? Compensation? Pay and benefits? What is the right word to use? So this seemingly minor change will cause problems if you don't address it quickly and easily at the beginning. So to help with identifying information architecture, we went to the change champions. And we ran what's called a card sort. And we're gonna do one right now. So what I'm gonna have you do is we're gonna get into smaller groups. So 10 people or so, right? And what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to run a card sort study. So we're gonna walk through it. A card sort is a great way to get your users to design your information architecture for you without much effort and without much bias. I said not much effort, so this is gonna be easy, don't worry. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand out some Post-its. So you 10 kind of gather around this table. You don't have to get up now, but just in a second. And you 10 kind of gather around this table. And actually, that's way too many. Hand some to the back table, please. Monica, will you pass those over there? Thank you so much. I'm gonna give you some back here too. You 10 can have some. You guys can have some. Back here, please. Thank you so much. Weston, thank you so much. And I'll hand out some markers as well. So when I say go, what you're gonna do is you're gonna write one word on each Post-it that you pull, okay? And if you're not a Post-it nerd like I am, you should know this because I've never been trained on Post-its. But you don't peel them from the bottom up, you peel them side to side because they curl if you peel them bottom up. Who has those? Who has those? Weston, I only gave you one, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to write fast. Okay, so what happens now when I say go, you're gonna get into those groups and you're gonna write one thing that you find in a grocery store on each Post-it. One food item that you see in a grocery store. And you're gonna write one on each sticky, and that word has to be something that you find at a grocery store. Okay, go. Stick them wherever you can. Yep. Yeah, hang on to them. Perfect. Get these guys involved. Here, split it up. Cut it in half. You know what I'm saying? Cut the whole. I am OCD, you're right. But we can do it for this exercise. There you go. I'm here. Yes. You guys going over here? Yeah, use them up. Use them up. I know it's wasteful, but we're learning. Good. Good one. Heard coffee. How you doing back here? Yeah. Stick them to a chair. I don't know if it'll work on the wall. They're probably designed to not hold. 10:15. 20 minutes in.
I don't. I did strawberries. But wait. Did you say food items?
Food items.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
Food items.
Just checking.
It can be produce. It can be meat. It can be products. Say that again. One per. It doesn't matter. Write as many as you can. Yeah. Make as many as you can. Yeah. Perfect. You guys are doing great. How many of you guys got? Keep going. Keep writing more. Yeah. You want like 50 of them. Get as many as you can. So this is why I got to walk around and do it. Okay. Yes. Yes, we should connect for sure. We'll make it easy. You guys are doing good. I like the leg technique. Well done, Damon.
Don't get me going down.
Yes. Oh my gosh, if I don't get a picture of this, I'll regret it forever.
You went too fast. They would probably have a lot of duplicates. I'm supposed to do that way. Sorry. I got school.
Yeah, you guys are doing good. Got milk already? Yep. Throw sour cream on there. Yep. Do Do more than produce. Think smaller than this. Yep. If you've got a card that says produce, do smaller. What's that?
You said food.
Food items. Yep. Don't do produce. Hold that one out. No categories. Individual items. No, that's good. I like that one. Really? Yeah, because no one's ever done it in a workshop.
That's really interesting.
How you guys doing? You're out of Post-its, aren't you? I knew you would be. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of all of you. Good job. Someone ran out of Post-its. No pressure. Look at Chris. Look at Chris. Okay, that's good. That's enough. That's enough. You've got enough cards. I'm sure, totally. Because you don't need that many. That's 2. Okay. Now. 4. Right, one more. Yep. Find something you find at a grocery store. Good. Okay. Next. Now, what you're gonna do, and I'm sorry, Weston, you're gonna have to find just a few more stickies. Who has extra stickies? Yes. Perfect. Because now, what you're going to do. Here's you guys. Oh, use these. They're much easier to see. Everybody got more stickies? Okay. Your next challenge. Oh, you keep those. Oh, actually, switch colors with me because it'll be easier for you. What you're going to do next is you're going to group them into categories. So put them in their specific areas. Okay? Ready, set, go. Do it. Categories. Chris, I want to see all the produce on your arms. 3 minutes.
Whatever seafood is going to be.
Cereal. Direct condiments. That's good. I guess cereal might be kind of like this. Milk or butter. Tortillas. Butter would be dairy. Right, there you go. Cereal would have to go bread butter. Bread. Condiments.
We could write condiments.
Well, I guess you want something more specific, not just condiments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine though. Put condiments with ketchup.
We don't have any condiments.
That's fine. It can be in its own category.
Chicken nuggets.
All right, you got 1 more minute to sort. 1 more minute to sort them.
Cheese could be with like butter and milk.
How you doing over here? Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, perfect. So each column is a category of stuff. Okay, got you. Visual thinker. I love it. She's got all the flair. I can't wait to read all those buttons. You guys are done already then? Okay, if you want, you can add a couple more things here. Put juice there, or I don't know, mixers like sour, or what's that stuff? The cherry grenadine. That'd be next to the beer and wine, right? How you doing on categories?
This is good.
Are they pretty categorized? They're good. You guys got good categories over here? Look, you have milk 3 times.
Because we didn't collaborate.
Hey, it's my fault for running bad study. You guys got good categories over here? All right. A+, gold star. See, Weston's skipping ahead. Love it. Okay, so they're still going. You guys keep going because I'm going to tell them the next thing that you already did. What you're going to do now is you take one of your next Post-its and you name that category. Put that name down. So if it's a produce item, put produce there. Name the categories. You already did that? Good. You guys are overachievers. So you put yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know how to get it. Cool. Yeah, you're 10 steps ahead. Okay, so what's the next step then, Lucas? Yeah, tell me the next step then. I will be co-presenting with Lucas today. No, there is no wrong. That's the beauty. There's no wrong. Yes. And if you've been in a grocery store, you probably want to rearrange what stuff is where, right? I do. Oh, not in. I forget you work in grocery. This is way too close to home. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah. You still get the discount. You just don't have to worry about what stuff is. Yeah. Oh, nice. That's a good one. That's a perk. Yes. Okay. Okay. Time's up. Whatever you got is fine. Whatever you did is fine, right? Because we're not actually trying to sort food in a grocery store, right? None of us have that in our job title, except for if you work in a grocery chain, maybe. That's too funny. Okay, so time's up. Name each group. What did you notice? Time to reflect. What did you guys notice over here?
There were some items that could be in multiple categories.
Some items could be in multiple categories. Exactly. What else? What else did you observe? A lot of duplication.
You miss a lot.
You miss a lot. It's hard to be thorough. Sometimes a category is just one thing. I love that one. Chris.
Our categories are too broad. Add grocery and not grocery.
I love when a card sort study breaks. Good job. In the back here.
I noticed that like someone said the lettuce, and right away my brain went to, okay, that's going to be produce.
You started categorizing while you were coming up with the concepts. Yes, that's a good one. Anything else? The category names are difficult, right? Or what did you observe? Yeah, well, dry goods is a good example. Everything kind of fits in there unless it's juicy. Ivan. Oh,
It just made, like, creating the categories just brought everything together where everything used to be scattered. Just having categories put everything in there.
yeah. So he was saying that categories has everything scattered. Sorry, I was supposed to be using the mic.
I'm sorry. Categories had, before we created the categories, our list was pretty scattered. You saw the Post-its everywhere. But once we created the categories, it kind of put everything in its organizational place.
Good stuff. Carol?
Okay, last one, people group items the way they use them. So we had sausage that could be with hot dogs, or sausage that could be with pancakes, cereal, etc.
Yes. Okay, that's a winner. Great observation. Great observation. In the back, just wait. Paula.
So right away, people jump to the products, but then I said, well, what else do you see? You see checkout, you see shopping cart, the infrastructure. Is it just as important?
Yes. They were like, how's Matt tricking us? What am I not thinking of? So there were more tables in here yesterday. I swear there were. So I'm sorry about that. I expected this to be a little bit smoother. I didn't expect Chris to be covered in Post-its, but it was still funny. And so thank you for bearing with me on that. What were some of the most challenging ones to sort or name? What about eggs? Did anyone choose groups that aren't already found in your grocery store? No. Okay. So sometimes what happens is people realize they can be grouped by other things, like how they're used. So, but did you put that in your categories, like breakfast?
I got overrode. But in my mind, I was just thinking breakfast.
Yeah. So Monica wanted to do it that way, but the rest of the group said no. And so you can kind of see too how if you run these card sort studies with individuals, you'll get even more diverse results, right? Some people will categorize foods by color because it makes more sense to them. And when they do that, it's really tough to categorize stuff. What color is an egg? There's 4 colors for eggs. White, yellow, clear, brown, if you buy the expensive ones. So hopefully you see that this indirectly guides participants to group items in ways that make sense to them in that moment, right? They're reflecting on what things are in here and how can I put them together, and you came up with logical names to you and your teams, except for Monica. And maybe a few other people. So since groupings of food wouldn't help us, we printed off the HR policy names. we printed off the HR request items, the HR service items, and put those in the cards, you know? So we had things like performance management as a category. That was one thing that people came up with. Other people named it talent review and succession planning. And what this is it's called a prioritization matrix, and it helps you kind of see how there's grouped items. So this is a zoomed in section of this part right here, where you can kind of see with the dark blue, those things all made sense to the same people, and they all kind of used similar names. So pretty fascinating way to see this kind of information. And then we had to look at the individual categorization themselves. So here's the topic of the request category, and then here's the names that they put it into. So hopefully you can see that there's one trend here. There's one word that shows up, 5 or 6 times. So it was pretty obvious that we should use the word performance for talent review and succession planning. Here are 2 more examples where the categories were not so clear. Where should the health and well-being guide be? Should it be a benefit? Because it is a benefit. Obviously, there's benefits there. But some people said, well, well-being. They were cheating. Global travel and entertainment, kind of the same thing. So it wasn't as obvious in those cases. Here's another example where the research was less conclusive as well. Hiring employee guide. Every single answer here is unique, I believe, except for you can see that 2 people did the exact same one. New hire information. There were 2 people that said that that's what that category should be. So, and this is the result. These are the categories that we came up with in the end. And hopefully you can see that some of these they didn't even have. For instance, team member management, that wasn't one that anyone suggested at all. No one thought that the stuff should be categorized that way, but after talking to managers, we realized that the card sort just didn't fit their needs, so we came up with it anyway and just did it. And we tested to make sure that they could get to what they needed. But this only took us 1 week. And this is like a $1.5 million contract that we were working with. And so why not take the 1 week and do this card sort study? Our team had plenty to do. We had to work on the infrastructure and the code and get the UAT set up. And so there's always plenty of work. And if you can set this stuff up and run a card sort study without doing it in a room full of people, do it online. There's lots of great tools. Optimalworkshop.com is a great resource for running these card sort studies online, along with additional ways to explore and do research. So the idea is that we basically came up with the categories and then we started putting them into a prototype. So we were using Figma to prototype the experience before we were going to go to building, which is another great thing for IT to realize. You don't have to code everything to test it. Just use Photoshop, It'll take a designer maybe a week to build a whole HR portal that looks exactly like yours, and then you can test it for efficacy. How fast can users navigate it? Do they actually find what you need? So this was the prototype, and we tested it with our change champions, of course. People who didn't do the card sort study is what we did. Because they already had their own biases, right? If they didn't see the right category, they would be miffed. Like, hey, why didn't you use my suggestion? That was way better than pay and compensation. But they didn't realize it was a global workforce, so they didn't have a choice. But what we did is we ran our prototype, our new nice, fancy, schmancy prototype, against a prototype that looked exactly like their old portal. And we gave them tasks, like find the work from home policy, request time off for a baby, and then we watched them use both portals. And we got results. We actually got to measure the results. And this is the bottom half, so you can kind of see it. Just so you can see, I have this in here for later when you want to download it and for our virtual attendees. But these were the results. It took them half the time to find policies. And then once they found the policies, it took them 88% less time to read the policies, because we rewrote the knowledge articles that were the policies, because it was literally a contract. Don't put contracts in your knowledge base. Or if you do, up at the top of the contract, add a TLDR. Too long, didn't read. Because if someone's looking for the work from home policy, all they want to know is, can I work from home? They don't want to read all the legalese. If they're looking for the paid time off policy, all they want to know is, how much do I accrue? How much do I have? And if you can put that right in the knowledge base article, they're not going to call you up. They're not going to put in a ticket. So same thing with IT. How long until I get a new laptop? That's what people want to know. When's my next new shiny coming? When can I get the M3? So, how do you think people felt about the new portal? Good? Great? Of course they loved it. They built it. We didn't build it and give it to them. They built it with us. That's co-creation of value. You know, you're not waiting for go live and then giving it to people. They saw it well before it went live. They got to see the prototype. So of course they loved it. And it's not all about giving all the power to your users. It's not about wasting time and money. Co-creation means that we succeed together as a group and we fail together as a group, right? We failed Monica. She's not going to be able to find food the same way, right? Well, she'll maybe learn to search, you know? And so that's what co-creation is about. Failing is good too, because in this loop, in this design cycle, if you get to that prototype phase, you can go back, look at the data again, redo the prototype, because you're not writing code, right? You're just doing it in Photoshop or Figma, so it's cheap to make changes quickly and easily, and then retest again until it works for a majority of your users. Excellent. So, imagine how you could put this to work in your organization, in your IT department. Imagine this in change management. Build a fake change management process. Have people go through it. See what you learn. You might learn something. You might be able to remove something. Or maybe you implement what you would change and then see if that works. Or maybe this is something you want to leverage internally. The design cycle is a great tool for exploring problems, so pick it up and start using this tool. 15 minutes, okay. And I also recommend involving your users now to start adapting to this new way of thinking. It is uncomfortable. You do have to fail. It feels bad for a little bit. You have to be uncomfortable. But eventually you get used to it. Eventually you start celebrating your losses. You put that example of Monica using a different category on a Miro board or somewhere else where you store it forever. This is a mistake we learned about, and you share that, because that way everyone learns together. So hopefully someday you or your teams can invest in this process enough to actually do this. What's kind of nice about being in IT is that we kind of do a lot of this already. How many of you guys have testing, UAT? Everyone, probably. I mean, if you're of any size or any complexity. So you can basically just move upstream, you know? Move away from test and learn, move it into prototyping and iteration, way more practical. So the last bit I'm gonna leave you with is, oh, actually I've got two more things. The first is a blueprint. So this is a service blueprint template, and I don't think I actually have this linked on the QR code at the end, but I will add it there. And this is kind of really close to it's a close cousin to the journey map. So this is not one person's journey. This is kind of what we would like in IT. It's not process, it's not journey map, it's kind of in the middle. And what we do is we start with something really simple. This is a Miro template, and all you do is you have some phases up at the top. This is a common buyer phase, LB GUPS, but you could have other phases as well and just name them whatever you want up at the top. And you're adding the steps. What are the steps that people do? What is the action of the users that are happening to the users up on the top? And then what are we doing in the background? What are the backstage actions that are happening? And I think I actually have that typed wrong. It should say backstage actions there instead of front. But eventually you can turn it into something that looks really pretty. So this is a service blueprint that we built for another client, and this is their onboarding process. And I'll actually pull up the whole thing right now. And this is also on the QR code. And what you do is, when you're building this thing and when you're doing these prototypes, you start capturing the things that people are doing. And you can see, I also put the user research right here on the process, so that you can see it would be great to have everything related to new hires in one spot. And that's the manager saying that. And here, I'll zoom in a little. Whoop. And we visualize the talent acquisition team, and there's the new hire. And they're using these tools to integrate, so we're kind of mapping out the automation that we want to run for onboarding. Here's another one with research. I wish someone was just available to answer questions. That's what the new hire wanted. So we built a portal for new hires. And what was great about that is They already had a login before they were even an employee on this separate system, because there's personal information, completely separate system. And then when they did get hired, they had already set their password. You just migrate them over. No handing out passwords anymore. No giving out passwords to managers. So we improved security and built a better experience for new hires. Absolutely fantastic project. I freaking loved it. Then down below, you see what the different teams are using to complete the process. We visualize kind of, you can see what there's all my notifications. You can see what people are using. There's other stuff that I can't scroll to unless I go really slowly. There you can see the new hire portal where they're signing in specifically. And then while we're building this, we're capturing what everyone's complaining about, which is a lot of things, right? So here, the manual step of sending and accepting an offer via email prior to doing it within a system is extraneous. How might we eliminate multiple communications regarding the offer? How might we? What a great wording for an open-ended question. How might we? Use that often. And you can see we use it so often that we put it at the beginning of every question down here. The Sterling background check form may require duplicate data and additional notifications and emails. Who's got those in their onboarding process? Everyone, I know you do. I've applied to work there. But how might we eliminate the need for new hires to enter the same information more than once? So this is where you're capturing those questions. Then down below, we see the actual activities that everyone's doing, and all of these have a different name, so you can kind of see the different layers of the service blueprint here. Pains and needs, these are the things that people were complaining about. Let's scroll further left or right so we can see some more. Not all candidates will have access to a photo camera or conditions required for a good badge photo. Lots of background activity occurring during this phase, including equipment provisioning, granting access, and assigning training. So more stuff for us to work on. Right? This is our backlog. We got a lot of work to do. My palms are sweaty just thinking about it. So hopefully you see that when you have these, you can visualize what you're trying to do next. Okay, speaking of doing next, we've got another activity. We've got about 14 minutes left, and what I want is 2 volunteers. I'm gonna make this easy for you though. 2 volunteers, anyone, please. Monica, thank you so much. You are just a gem. Come on up. Come on up. Yes, this is perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to play 2 characters. Deandra, I love you. Okay, and you guys are going to stand here and just face kind of, 45, like you're having a conversation to these people. And this is a subtext activity, so I promise to make it easy. You will be character 1. And you'll be character 2. And we have a problem. Credit cards aren't processing, okay? So character 1, Monica, you work on the credit card system. That's your system, all right? Deandra, change manager, okay? Monica, you need to restart the NAS to get it working again, right? We need a network reboot, basically. It will take an emergency change. So you're putting in an emergency change. And you're the change manager, and the last time you approved a NAS bounce, your company lost 25,000 transactions. Okay? It's a tough spot, but I'm gonna give you your first phrase to make it easy. Hello, I need. Okay, and. Okay? So you say, hello, I need to. Oh, wait, let me do the microphone. Thank you so much.
All right, hello. I need to restart the NAS because we're having a problem with our credit card machine, so I need to make an emergency change.
Well done.
Okay, and who needs to be involved in this process, and have you communicated to them?
Not yet, but it would be 2 engineers on my team. One person is going to reboot, and then the other person is going to help with some testing once it comes back up.
Okay, perfect. We're going to stop there. Now I need 2 more yes, well done. Give them a round. Stay up here though. You ain't going nowhere yet. I need 2 more volunteers now. This part's easier than that. Come on. Come on, Omar. Come on, Omar. And what's your name? Say.
Betty Lou.
Betty Lou. Okay, Betty Lou, come over here. You're gonna put your hand on the shoulder of the person. Put your hand on the shoulder of the person that you are a part of, and you do the same, Omar. And you can stand behind them if you'd like. It's actually really good if you stand behind them. That's the best. Okay, and we're gonna say that exact same thing over. Okay, so same script.
All right, DeAndrea, I need to reboot the NAS because
Credit
what
cards
happened?
aren't
The credit cards aren't
I
processing.
need an emergency change.
And I need an emergency change.
And Betty Lou, I want you to say what she was really thinking. What was she really thinking?
What happened now that made our cards go down? Who
Perfect.
changed something?
Perfect. Who changed something? And you're gonna ask,
Okay, and who's involved and have they been communicated with?
and she was really thinking,
Do you know how much is this going to cost us?
exactly. And so these little, you guys can sit down, give them a round. And so hopefully you can see how this activity opens up the subtext of what these people are really thinking during these boring processes, you know? And you might actually open some doors. You might see some different ways to either communicate, or you're gonna think about how we can improve the change process so that Monica knows the last time we did an emergency change on this system, it cost us 25,000 transactions and $250,000 of money. What else? What else would you think? Anyone got ideas? Okay, then I'll tell you another step. You can add more people. You can add subtext to the subtext to the subtext. You can have people, because there were people here, Betty Lou, who wanted to be in your spot. They were like, this is BS. What am I doing here? I'm gonna lose my job over this. Like, people had other thoughts and other subtexts that they were thinking of. So you can see how if you've got additional people providing that subtext and being real, and sharing what they really feel, you can understand processes a lot better. Okay, I had instructions all there. So hopefully you can see how that helps you understand people. And with enough practice, you can start adding this to all of your processes. So the reason this is important is because co-creating value will get you the data that you need to make the correct decisions while building services, experiences, and improving process. You'll take the guesswork out of your services. How nice would it be to know that users are going to love the next laptop model you've picked? How nice would it be to know that people will hate Microsoft 360 or love it or whatever it is? It's nice to know these things. So this will help for call-ins, chat, email experiences. This will help you understand how you deliver collaboration and communication services within your organization, as well as other IT products and services. And this is super important because I can't get my mouse over here. There we go. Because good service is good business. Okay, now, questions, concerns, ideas you have. What else should we talk about? Because we've got 8 minutes left. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait. I'm gonna be a good boy.
So I know you're focusing on, we went through HR, but if every department has policies, what is your recommendation?
Make them easy to read.
Well, no, where do you store them? You worked on HR portal.
Yeah.
And then there's an IT portal.
Yes. Yep.
Where do you put all the policies?
Ah, got it. I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah. If all of your knowledge articles are TLDR, where does the policy go? Below the TLDR. Just put it all in one spot. Because really, if you think about knowledge, it's a funnel. 80% of people have the same question. Put that at the top. The next 10% people have a specific question. Kind of make that easy. Maybe there's an outline below the TLDR. And then 10% of people like to read the whole policy. Maybe it's less than 10%. I think it's less than 10%. Probably 1 in 10,000. A 10,000th of a percent. Okay, other questions? Weston. Oh.
So Matt, a lot of what you were describing here about how to figure out the requirements or the need was subjective, asking people, interviewing, collecting data, which is really awesome. But you hinted at some objective data. I have that backwards.
you're right.
The data. As you, especially when you had the prototypes out and you're seeing, did people get hung up?
Yes.
How long did it take? I mean, how were you actually collecting that type of data?
Love it. Great question, Weston. So Figma has lots of partners and plugins that help you get that sort of quantitative data. Because you want to measure it with data, right? You don't want to introduce your own bias when you're doing the analysis. So what we did is we used a tool called maze.design, and it basically will let you pair it with a Figma prototype, and then you can watch it. You can watch people use it, and it'll give you heat zones where people are clicking. It'll give you flow maps about the different categories and navigation elements that they're using, and give you that quantitative data. Great question. And there's lots of others. This book right here, this is Service Design Doing by IDEO. Absolutely fantastic for this. The 2 activities that you did in here with the Post-its and the subtext, that's from that book. Definitely highly recommend that book. It's also a free website. This is Service Design Doing, I believe .org, but I don't really know because I have the book and I love books. So that's a great place to look. What other questions do we have? Yes, Carol.
So we did a portal project and we followed all the steps that you recommended, but it still didn't come out right because our change champions were really embedded in the culture of organizational silos. So now our portal looks like organizational silos. So what recommendations would you have for maturing? Do you go through the steps all over again?
Great question. Yeah, and the same thing exists in our ITSM system, right? We've coded ourselves into a corner. It's not providing the value that we want. My recommendation is to re-roll. You know, take your existing portal and start going back through that iteration loop. Prototype something new. And maybe you're making gradual change, like maybe you make a future state that you're headed towards, and then you make small steps on your existing portal to get there. Dial it back. Because people don't think I want a laptop from IT. They think I want a laptop from my company. So your portal isn't an IT portal. It isn't an HR portal. And we tried to convince them of that, but the IT team didn't want to foot the bill for their portion of the portal. So we had to keep it segregated, which totally sucked. But that's the reality of finance. That's the reality of politics in our organizations. If you want, we've got a free book called Enterprise Service Management at our booth. I work for Invigate. We're one of the sponsors here. And it kind of covers those concepts. I'm trying not to be promotional. I'm sorry about that. But it covers that concept specifically. How to do service management beyond IT and into the other shared service functions. Roy Atkinson contributed, Barclay Ray contributed, as well as some other people at this conference. And we have a free Udemy course as well that's based on enterprise service management and how to cross boundaries. So look that up or connect with me. I don't have those linked because I try not to be too promotional. HDI hates it. And so do I. I want to be authentic. Can you tell?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Any other questions? Glenn, bring it on, man.
So I love the idea of the co-creation and the concepts, especially working for internal.
Yeah.
How can we apply some of those concepts for an external facing portal?
Excellent. Great question. The exact same way. The exact same way. You've got a customer advocacy group already. If you've got customers, you should have a customer advocacy group or a team of change champions in the customer group. They should be building your products with you. Apple does the same. You know, they're super secretive about their products, but they just make everyone sign that NDA. And then you can do whatever you want with them. They're basically your employees, unpaid employees. And it's actually easier because they want to do it. It's going to impact their service. It's going to impact their products. So they're in it to win it. Thank you so much for being here. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any problems getting any of the resources from this, or you just want to chat some more, I'm a nerd. I run a little podcast called Ticket Volume that's basically this conference, but in a podcast. There's some sticker sheets here that are really funny. Grab one of those. It's got my podcast name on it too, so you can remember the name and subscribe. And that's it. Have a great rest of the conference, everyone.